The bridge of the ISS Dauntless was a quiet machine of muted lights and disciplined motion. Crew members moved with the ease of long familiarity, speaking in clipped sentences, eyes fixed on their work. Outside the forward viewport, a procession of gold-plated warships hung in the darkness, their hulls glinting with ceremonial sigils and streaming banners that served no purpose except to proclaim power. "They're hailing us, Captain," Lieutenant Amani said, her voice low. She glanced at the command chair as though reluctant to disturb him. Elias Rourke did not look up from the tactical projection in front of him. The Dominion fleet was arranged in a perfect spearhead, the kind of formation their admirals had used for centuries. Predictable, decorative, vulnerable. "Let them wait," he said. "Yes, sir." She cut the channel without comment. The Dauntless was not a beautiful ship. Its armor plates were matte black, scored and pitted from years of testing. There were no banners, no gilded crests. Only the sharp, functional lines of a vessel built to survive the worst an enemy could throw at it. The Dominion's warships looked like parade pieces in comparison. The first officer, Commander Holt, leaned toward him. "Fleet Registry says that's the echelon formation. Center ship is the Araxis, flagship of Lord High Admiral Threx Verwin himself." Rourke's expression didn't change. "Verwin? I've read his reports. He considers war a stage performance." "Most of them do," Holt muttered. "It hadn't always been this way. 3 days ago, a Dominion inspection patrol intercepted a civilian transport bound for the colony of Damaris IV. The pretext was security search. The reality was an unprovoked boarding that left 17 dead. The Dauntless had been ordered to withdraw from the sector, to file complaints through diplomatic channels. Rourke had acknowledged those orders. Then he had altered course straight for the border. Now, here they were, nose to nose with the Dominion's elite. "Sir," Amani said, "second hail from the Araxis. They're using open channel protocol." "Put it through." The central hollow projector came alive with the image of Threx Verwin, tall, angular, clad in silver ceremonial armor. His eyes held the cold arrogance of one who had never known defeat. When he spoke, it was with the measured weight of a man reciting a ritual. "Human vessel Dauntless, you trespass in Dominion territory. By order of his radiance, the Emperor of Stars, you will submit to honorable combat or face eradication." Rourke let a few seconds pass before answering. "We're not here for your games, Admiral." Verwin's brow tightened. "You will address me by my full title." "I'll address you as my situation requires." Rourke said evenly, "Your patrol murdered civilians. We're here to demand their return." The Dominion Admiral's smile was slow and without warmth. "You are far from your homeworld, Captain. Alone. Outnumbered. This is not a negotiation. This is the moment history will remember as the day humanity was humbled." Rourke's gaze did not shift. "We'll see whose history survives." Verwin cut the channel with a dismissive gesture. The gold-armored fleet began to adjust position, spreading into a wider arc. Their movements were graceful, almost balletic. Every turn a calculated display. "Status on weapons?" Rourke asked. "All systems green," Holt replied. "They're keeping range, no active locks yet." Rourke tapped the sequence on his console. The holographic display shifted, highlighting gaps in the Dominion's formation. "They'll begin with ceremonial volleys, a warning shot to impress their audience back home. They'll expect us to return in kind. And when we don't, they'll adjust." Slowly, too slowly, the crew exchanged glances, understanding dawning. Dominion war was a ritual, its rules carved into centuries of tradition. Rourke had no intention of following them. "Helm," he said, "bring us 5 degrees starboard, ahead 1/4. Keep our broadside out of view. Weapons, cold and silent until my mark." "Aye, sir." The Dauntless eased into motion, a predator circling just outside the light. The Dominion ships tracked the movement, but made no immediate response. They had the numbers. They had the range. They had the confidence of 1,000 victories fought on their terms. Rourke leaned back in his chair, eyes never leaving the projection. "Holt, what do you see?" The commander studied the formation. "They're holding their light screens close. Overlapping fields. Looks strong, but..." "It's brittle," Rourke finished for him. One break, and the whole shield net collapses. That's assuming we can hit the right point. We can. They'll give it to us when they fire. Minutes passed. The Dominion fleet drifted into final alignment. A ripple of energy flared along the spearhead's edges, their ceremonial volley warming to life. Rourke waited, hands resting loosely on the arms of his chair. "Mark," he said. The Dauntless shifted its attitude, aligning 3 spinal cannons with the exact point where 2 Dominion light screens overlapped. The instant the first golden lances of enemy fire streaked across the void, harmlessly missing by design, Rourke's guns fired in return. 3 tungsten rods, each the mass of a small car, slammed into the junction. The impact was instant chaos. The overlapping shield nodes shattered, and the ships behind them jolted under uncontrolled feedback surges. 2 peeled out of formation entirely, their glowing hulls suddenly dim. The bridge of the Dauntless was silent, but for the steady hum of systems. The crew didn't cheer. They watched. "They'll be angry," Holt said quietly. "Good," Rourke replied. "Anger makes them sloppy." Amani glanced up from her console. Incoming hail, Admiral Verwin again. On screen, Verwin's face was flushed now, his composure strained. "You dare violate the rules of engagement? You think savagery will save you?" Rourke's voice was calm, almost gentle. "I think survival will save me." The line went dead. The Dominion fleet began to move in earnest, abandoning the rigid spearhead for a tightening noose. It was faster than their usual pace, uncoordinated, reactive, exactly what Rourke wanted. "Helm," he said, "take us on a drift toward Grid 14, low throttle. Make it look like we're pulling back." "They'll chase," Holt murmured. "That's the idea." As the Dauntless turned, the matte black armor caught no reflection from the distant starlight. In the void behind them, the Dominion ships accelerated, banners streaming uselessly in the darkness. The first trap was set. The Dauntless glided on low thrust, slipping toward a dense belt of fractured rock. The asteroids turned slowly in the starlight, their jagged edges catching faint glimmers from the pursuing Dominion fleet. On the bridge, every display tracked their movements in real time. No one spoke unless necessary. Commander Holt studied the tactical feed. They're keeping the arc tight. 6 cruisers, 8 escorts, the flagship dead center. "Textbook net formation," Rourke said, leaning forward. "They'll try to push us into the belt, thinking we'll avoid collision. Won't they expect an ambush?" "They'll expect one on their terms. That's the problem with predators that rehearse the hunt. They can't improvise." Lieutenant Amani spoke without looking up. Dominion sensors sweeping at quarter strength. They're watching for weapons fire, not hull silhouettes. Rourke's lips curved slightly. "Perfect." The asteroids loomed larger on the forward screen, tumbling in slow chaos. The Dominion ships trailed behind, maintaining their decorative cohesion. Gold hulls threading through space like the spine of some colossal, arrogant beast. Every adjustment they made was measured, deliberate, predictable. Rourke keyed the comm to engineering. "Chief, status on the rail arrays?" "Charged and waiting," came the reply. "Once we light M, they'll know exactly where we are." "That's the point. Stand by." He returned to the tactical display. "Holt, bring us between those twin spires ahead. Keep orientation loose. Let them think we're maneuvering blind." The Dauntless slid into the shadow of 2 towering rock columns, each hundreds of meters high. The navigation hologram drew a wireframe outline of the surrounding debris field, a shifting labyrinth of stone and ice. The Dominion would follow. Their pride demanded it. Rourke's voice stayed low. "This isn't about destroying them all. It's about teaching them something they'll never forget." Holt gave him a sidelong glance. "And if they refuse to learn, then they die in the dark." Minutes passed. The Dominion fleet entered the belt in single file, their formation stretching thin as navigators adjusted for the narrow passages. Their golden hulls were bright beacons against the muted backdrop. They weren't stealthy because they'd never had to be. Amani's console chimed softly. "Flagship transmitting. Ceremonial warning, Captain. They demand we cease dishonorable flight." "Record it," Rourke said. "History should remember their last words." The bridge was silent, except for the occasional murmur of data between stations. On the tactical screen, Dominion escorts fanned out, their vector lines curving toward the Dauntless. The belt's natural cover made clear targeting impossible for them, unless Rourke chose to give them a shot. "Chief," he said into comms, "fire sequence. 3 rounds staggered on my mark." "Copy that, Captain." The nearest Dominion cruiser edged closer, its shields glowing faintly as debris bounced harmlessly away. The pilot adjusted course to mirror the Dauntless drift, trying to herd them toward open space. It was exactly the overconfidence Rourke had predicted. "Mark." The railgun spoke in deep, shuddering pulses. Slender tungsten rods erupted into the void at hypersonic velocity, slamming into the cruiser's side before its helm officer could react. Armor ruptured, venting atmosphere in glittering bursts. The ship's shields flared once, then collapsed entirely. It spun slowly out of formation, darkening as power failed. No cheers from the bridge, just the sound of status updates. "1 down," Holt said. "They'll send more," Rourke replied. "And faster." The prediction proved correct. The Dominion escorts accelerated, breaking their neat arcs. Several fired wild shots into the shadows, light lances illuminating drifting rock. None struck home. Amani tracked their erratic movement. "They're panicking. Breaking pursuit discipline." "Good," Rourke said. "Holt, swing us 30 degrees port. Cut throttle. Let them overtake." The Dauntless drifted, feigning evasive confusion. 2 escorts surged ahead to block their path, presenting broadside for intimidation. Rourke waited until both ships aligned in the same plane. "Chief," linked the rail arrays. 2 targets. "Now." The next volley tore through both escorts in a single stroke. One shattered outright, hull fragments spinning away. The other listed, bleeding atmosphere from a dozen rents. Neither posed further threat. Holt leaned over the display. "That's 4 gone. Flagship still holding position. They won't risk it until they think we're finished." Rourke's eyes narrowed. "And they will think it." Amani's sensors pinged. "Captain, one of the damaged cruisers is withdrawing. Slow jump vector. Let them go." Holt raised a brow. "Spreading the tail?" "Fear travels faster than light," Rourke said. "We want them telling everyone what happened here." Outside, the asteroid shifted, shadows dancing across the Dauntless hull. The Dominion ships regrouped at the edge of the belt, unwilling to press deeper without exposing their flagship. Their rigid doctrine was grinding against the reality in front of them. Rourke stood, stepping toward the forward viewport. "They'll try to bait us into open space next. They'll want the spectacle. And we?" Holt asked. Rourke's voice was calm, final. "We'll give them a show, just not the one they rehearsed." The asteroids thinned as the Dauntless emerged into a stretch of open space. Behind them, the Dominion fleet reformed, their polished hulls catching the pale light of a nearby star. "They're spreading wide," Holt observed, eyes on the tactical readout, "trying to box us in." "Let them," Rourke said, stepping back to the command chair. "A predator that circles too close eventually exposes its throat." The Dauntless hull groaned faintly as maneuvering thrusters adjusted her angle. She looked sluggish by design, an illusion meant to coax the Dominion forward. Amani glanced up from sensors. Multiple weapons locks, but they're holding fire. "Because they want the ceremony," Holt muttered. "They need to announce it to the galaxy before they finish us." Rourke's eye stayed on the display. "They still think this is a duel in an arena. They've never fought someone who doesn't care about the applause." The flagship's comm signal cut in without request. Threx Verwin, his voice heavy with theatrical gravity. "Human Captain, you stand at the mercy of the Dominion. In recognition of your courage, you may yield and be spared the humiliation of defeat." Rourke's reply was measured, almost bored. "Mercy? You murdered civilians. Spare me the theater." Verwin's tone sharpened. "Then you'll be destroyed. May your people remember your stubbornness." The channel went dead. "Chief!" Rourke called toward engineering. "Prepare a saturation volley. Mix munitions. I want the first impact inside 10 seconds of launch." "Understood, came the gruff reply. The Dominion ships began to close, their gold plating gleaming as they tightened the circle. The flagship held position in the rear, confident its escorts would deliver the kill. "Helm," Rourke said. "Steady drift until they're at 800 meters, then give me a 20-degree yaw starboard." Holt shot him a quick look. "That'll give them a broadside." "That's the point. They'll think we're trying to escape, and they'll concentrate fire on the flank. While they're locked into that firing solution." He trailed off, letting the crew connect the dots. Amani nodded, already adjusting targeting parameters. Impact spread will shred their overlapping shields. The seconds ticked down. On the forward screen, the Dominion's lead pair of cruisers drifted closer, their forward batteries glowing with charged energy. "Now," Rourke said. The Dauntless rolled with deceptive laziness. Instantly, the Dominion ships committed. Energy lances spat from their guns, burning toward the exposed flank. But before the volleys could land, the Dauntless fired first. The mixed payload, tungsten penetrators, high-density flechettes, and electromagnetic disruptors, ripped across space. The first wave slammed into shield junctions, overloading them in bursts of white light. The second wave punched through exposed armor, spraying debris into the void. The third wave hit their reactors with a bloom of interference, plunging entire decks into darkness. Both cruisers faltered, one breaking apart in a silent, spinning bloom of fire, the other limping sideways as escape pods jettisoned in frantic succession. "Targets neutralized," Amani reported, her voice steady but eyes bright. "Shift to next closest," Rourke ordered. "Don't give them time to breathe." The Dauntless swung again, its guns finding the next pair. The Dominion escorts, shaken by the sudden, brutal efficiency, tried to scatter, but scattering meant breaking formation. Without their overlapping screens, each ship became an isolated target. Holt watched the icons blink out on the display. "They're unraveling." "They've never fought without choreography," Rourke replied. "Now they're improvising against people who've done nothing but improvise for centuries." Amani's console beeped sharply. "Captain, one ship disengaging at high speed. It's transmitting on wideband, likely reporting to the rest of the fleet." Rourke allowed a small nod. "Good. Let them tell their admirals exactly what a human warship looks like." The flagship remained at range, watching the slaughter unfold. Rourke studied it on the projection. Its elegant silhouette, its gilded armor, the faint shimmer of shields that had never been tested in real war. "They're not committing," Holt said. "He's waiting for us to come to him." "He's hoping we'll be foolish enough to take the bait," Rourke said. "But not yet. We've only shown them the teeth. I want them to imagine the jaws." The remaining Dominion ships tried to regroup, but the Dauntless kept moving. Never in the same vector twice, never predictable. Railgun bursts punctuated the void, each one deliberate, each one stripping away more of the enemy's confidence. When the last escort drifted powerless, Rourke finally called a halt. "Cease fire. Helm, take us back into the belt." Holt frowned. "We're not pressing the advantage?" "We've given them their first lesson," Rourke said, voice low but certain. "If we crush them all now, the Dominion will call it an accident, a fluke. But if we vanish and they have to explain this to their emperor, fear will spread farther than wreckage ever could." As the Dauntless slipped back into the asteroid shadows, the battered survivors of the Dominion fleet hung in space, their formations shattered, their banners adrift in the silence. It would not be the last time these two forces met. And next time, the Dauntless would not be content to leave witnesses. The Dauntless drifted in the asteroid belt's outer fringe, her engines idling low, hull blending into the shadows. On the tactical display, fresh Dominion signatures flared into view, reinforcements. Holt's voice was level, but the numbers were grim. 20 vessels, heavy cruisers, destroyer screens, and a new flagship. Rourke studied the formation. It was tighter, denser, less ornamental than before, but still bound to the Dominion's doctrines. They've learned enough to send numbers, not enough to change how they fight. Amani adjusted the sensor feed. Multiple long-range locks. They're sweeping the belt, probably expecting an ambush. "They're right to," Rourke said. "We'll give them one." The newcomers advanced in a wedge, overlapping shields flaring faintly. But unlike the Echelon Fleet's theatrical march, this force moved with intent. No ceremonial spacing, no drifting banners, just hard, deliberate thrust. Holt leaned closer to the display. They've got ECM arrays running. We'll have to close distance to get a clean shot. That's what they want, Rourke replied. They think we'll come at the point of the spear. And we're not. Not even close. He tapped the console, bringing up a wireframe of the surrounding sector. The belt's edge curved toward a small moonlet. Insignificant on most charts, but with a gravity field strong enough to disrupt local vectors. We'll use the moonlet's shadow, Rourke said. Let them think we're retreating deeper, then cut across their flank under cover. Amani frowned. They'll still have scouts. At least one will spot us. They'll see us when I want them to, Rourke said, his voice firm. And not before. Orders moved through the crew with practiced efficiency. Thrusters whispered to life, nudging the Dauntless into the moonlet's dark side. The hull vanished into blackness, sensors running at passive intake. The Dominion fleet pressed forward, its wedge narrowing as it approached the belt's thinning edge. Holt's eyes narrowed. They're committing hard. Centerline is all heavy cruisers. Everything else is screening ahead. Rourke allowed himself a small nod. And now we break them. He keyed the internal channel. Chief, prep all forward batteries and ECM pulse emitters. When I give the mark, I want every Dominion scanner blind for 5 seconds. 5 seconds isn't much, the chief replied. It's all we need. The Dauntless waited, silent in the moonlet's shadow. The Dominion formation came closer, their lead ships cutting through the belt's outer debris. Then, precisely as the wedge passed the moonlet's trailing edge, Rourke gave the order. Now! A pulse of electronic fury erupted from the Dauntless, hammering Dominion sensors. Shield harmonics faltered, targeting reticles scrambled. For 5 seconds, the void was chaos. The Dauntless surged from shadow at full burn, crossing the fleet's flank at knife-fighting range. Fire! Railguns spat tungsten into the nearest cruiser, tearing through armor and reactors alike. Secondary batteries chewed apart the destroyer screen before they could react. The formation twisted in panic. Ships breaking from the wedge, overlapping fields collapsing. Amani's voice was sharp. 3 ships crippled, 1 destroyed. Multiple shield failures across the line. Keep moving, Rourke ordered. Never give them a stationary target. The Dauntless carved a brutal path through the flank, every gun firing in measured bursts. Each volley was a surgical strike. Reactors, shield nodes, weapon spines. No wasted fire. On the Dominion flagship, Threx Verwin's voice cut in over open channel, loud and furious. Human, you dishonor every law of battle. Face me in open space if you have courage. Rourke's reply was calm, almost disinterested. I'm not here for your laws. I'm here to win. The channel cut with a hiss of static. The Dominion attempted to regroup, but every movement only opened more holes. Their rigid shield architecture, designed for set-piece engagements, couldn't adapt to the dauntless constant shifts in vector. Holt scanned the feed, their forward screens collapsing, flagships pulling back, probably for Zurd's command link. Which means, Rourke said, we've got room to grab someone useful. He selected a midline cruiser, damaged but still powered. Target their engines. Leave life support intact. Amani's volley took the drives offline in 3 shots. The cruiser drifted, helpless. Prepare boarding skiff, Rourke said. Holt blinked. You're going over? No. I want their captain brought here. Minutes later, the skiff returned with a tall, gray-skinned officer in Dominion armor, flanked by armed Marines. The alien's crest feathers were dull with exhaustion, but his eyes burned with fury. Rourke studied him from the command dais. You're going to tell me exactly what Verwin's orders are. The officer hissed. You will get nothing. Rourke didn't raise his voice. You've already lost your ship. Your fleet is bleeding. Verwin will leave you behind if it serves his narrative. Do you want to die for a man who sees you as a prop? The Dominion captain hesitated, the smallest flicker of doubt crossing his face. Holt stepped forward. Tell him what he wants, and you might live to see your homeworld again. The alien's jaw tightened. Then, Slowly. Verwin intends to drive you into the open and crush you with concentrated fire. He will not risk his flagship until you commit. Exactly what I needed, Rourke said. Take him to holding. Treat his injuries. Feed him. The officer was led away. Holt leaned closer. Why feed him? Because when he's returned, Rourke said, I want him talking about how we treated him better than his own commander would have. The battle outside was winding down, Dominion ships limping away, wrecks spinning silently in the void. The Dauntless held position just beyond weapons range of the retreating flagship. Rourke watched the shrinking enemy icons. They'll be back, and they'll bring more. But next time, their formations will be just a little looser. Their captains will second-guess their orders. That's when we end this. The crew exchanged glances. They understood. This was not about a single battle. This was a campaign to break an empire's certainty. In the quiet that followed, the Dauntless turned slowly toward the deep black beyond the belt. The trap for the final strike was already taking shape. 3 days later, the Dominion came in force. The Dauntless sensors painted the void with hostile returns. 60 ships, a full battle line, supported by carriers and siege platforms. Their formation was layered, adaptable, clearly influenced by their last defeat. Holt whistled low. They've learned something. Not enough, Rourke said, eyes steady on the tactical feed. Verwin's flagship, Imperial Ascendant, led the center. The Dominion commander had abandoned ceremonial banners, replacing them with hard, shielded lines. Carrier wings circled the formation, fighter clouds already moving to screen the approach. Amani's tone was flat. They'll saturate us with drones and fighters before we can even get close. Rourke nodded. Exactly why we won't give them the chance. He expanded the holo display, a stretch of deep space between the asteroid belt and a nearby brown dwarf. Hidden in that void were dozens of dormant mines, heat-sinked and masked from scanners. 2 days ago, Rourke said, while they were licking their wounds, we seeded this corridor. They think we're boxed in. They'll drive straight through. The first Dominion wave surged forward. As they entered the corridor, proximity triggers lit the darkness. Mines blossomed in silent fire, ripping through the fighter screen, gutting destroyers. Holt grinned. That's 20 ships crippled before they've even sighted us. Keep count later, Rourke said. Bring us in. The Dauntless advanced, engines flaring bright. She cut through drifting wreckage. Guns hot, armor plates catching glints of distant stars. Verwin's voice came over wideband. Human, your tricks end here. You will meet your end before the Empire's full might. Rourke keyed the channel. Verwin, I warned you. This is a human warship. We don't die on command. The Dauntless punched through the debris cloud, firing in disciplined bursts. Rail slugs tore into the Dominion's forward line, targeting engines and shield spines. Plasma lances followed, cutting through exposed hulls. Amani called out. Carriers moving to intercept. Launch bays opening. Time for the knife, Rourke said. Helm, 20 degrees up, full burn. Holt, low grape shot. The Dauntless pitched, presenting her ventral batteries. Grape shot. Dense clouds of hypervelocity fragments, scattered into the path of launching fighters. The swarm disintegrated before it could form up. The sudden gap split the Dominion's coverage. Rourke drove into the opening, sliding the Dauntless deep into their formation. Dominion ships tried to pivot, but their larger turning arcs worked against them. Human engineering favored brutal acceleration, and the Dauntless danced between vessels far larger than herself. Target the flagship's escorts, Rourke ordered. Holt's volleys were surgical. One escort's reactor went critical, another lost drive control and spun helplessly. The space around Imperial Ascendant became a graveyard of her own guard. Verwin's voice returned, angrier now. You shame yourself with these coward strikes. No, Rourke said coldly. I win with them. The Dauntless swung broadside to flagship. Her main batteries cycled, capacitors humming at maximum. Fire. The shot punched through the flagship's forward shield, tearing into the armor beneath. A second salvo followed before the Dominion's compensator stabilized. The Imperial Ascendant reeled, her bow venting atmosphere. Amani's readout glowed red. They're trying to pull back. Engines at full burn. Not, yet they're not. Rourke brought up the ECM array. Pulse them. Everything. Electronic storms erupted across the flagship systems. Targeting, comms, navigation, all shattering into static. The Dauntless closed for the kill. Inside the Dominion command bridge, Verwin would be seeing only chaos. Half his fleet in flames, the rest unable to coordinate. Boarding skiff ready, Holt said. Send it. Rourke replied. The skiff knifed through the drifting wreckage, docking hard against the flagship's ruptured flank. Marines moved fast, cutting through internal resistance. Minutes later, Holt's voice came over comms. We have him. On the Dauntless deck, Verwin stood shackled. Feathers dulled, his arrogance cracked. Rourke stepped forward. This war is over. You will order every surviving ship to stand down. Verwin hissed. You cannot dictate terms to the Empire. You've already lost, Rourke said, eyes locked on him. Your fleet's dead, your command's broken, and every ship still running is doing so without orders. Surrender and your people live. Refuse and they die in minutes. Silence stretched. Then Verwin's shoulders sagged. Transmit the order? Moments later, the Dominion icons on the tactical feed dimmed. Power signatures falling to safe mode. Weapons going cold. The crew let out a breath they hadn't realized they'd been holding. Holt broke the quiet. That's it. They're done. Rourke didn't smile. No, this is just the first time they've seen what we can do. It won't be the last. Verwin was led away. The Dauntless turned slowly in the debris field, survivor ships peeling off under escort. The void was littered with the remnants of a force that had believed itself untouchable. In the stillness, Rourke looked out through the forward viewport, sent a message to every listening post. The Dominion came for us with their fleets. And this, he gestured to the ruin outside, is what's left. No one on the bridge doubted the signal's reach. By the time the transmission hit the fringe colonies, by the time it reached neutral worlds and covert-human outposts, one truth would burn clear across the stars. This is a human warship, and humanity does not yield.